winning.
2, 1, 0. All engine running.
At 11:02 a.m., the B-29 dropped an atomic bomb on Nagasaki.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
And we are calling it iPhone.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
It's something, as Americans, that's ingrained in us. Win at all costs.
You play to win the game. Then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. Just win, baby.
But what if I told you we are no longer winning?
And it means that Europe have not only retained, but they have won the Ryder Cup on US soil here.
3-2. He struck him out! Ohtani strikes out Trout, and Japan's back on top of the baseball world.
What the heck happened to American tennis? 22 long, I think painful years since an American man has won a major title.
Here it is. Gets to Schroeder, he throws it up, and the Germans have done it! They have stunned the United States in the semifinals!
This is the story of the fall of America's sports empire. When you look at medal counts in the Winter Olympics, the country with the most Olympic medals is going to shock you. It's not one of these extremely populated countries like the United States or even China or Japan. It's not one of these big European countries either, like France or Germany. The country that's leading the entire world in Winter Olympic medal count is Norway?
Norway, another gold medal at these Olympics.
Norway takes the gold, and Norway can celebrate gold, and Norway claims gold.
Norway has already won 16 gold medals.
But here's a crazy fact. Norway's population is 5.6 million people. That's roughly the size of Phoenix, Arizona. The United States population is 61 times the size of Norway. Yet Norway's leading the entire world in medal count at the Winter Olympics. But here's the thing, this isn't a fluke either. Norway had the most medals in both the 2018 Winter Olympics and the 2022 Winter Olympics. Now, you're probably going to say, well, what about the Summer Olympics? The United States is still leading the world in Olympic medals combined these last two Olympics. And to that I say, okay, sure. But we're going to focus on efficiency as opposed to totality here. Listen to this. Factoring in these last two Olympic Games, the United States has one medal for every 2.4 million people. Well, Norway has one medal for every 160,000 people. That is a massive difference. Massive difference. But those that say, well, it's just the Winter Olympics, what about everything else? Well, Norway has arguably the best soccer player in the world right now, Erling Haaland. One of the top golfers in the world, Victor Hovland, is from Norway. Their soccer team will most likely be going to the World Cup this year. Their women's handball team just won gold in the Summer Olympics. One of their sprinters broke a 28-year world record for fastest 3K meter time. And listen to this. The United States has one Summer Olympic medal for every 2.7 million people. Norway has one Summer Olympic medal for every 700,000 people. Sure, I get it. The United States has more total medals than Norway. But you can't argue that Norway's method is far more efficient than the United States. So in this video, we're going to ask, how on earth is Norway, a country with a population smaller than Metro Atlanta, Georgia, leading the world in Winter Olympic medals. What is Norway doing that other countries are not doing? Specifically, what is Norway doing that the United States is not doing? Well, in order to answer that, we have to go back to a monumental time in American sports culture. It's the late 1970s, and Bob Hope is on TV in a putting contest against a 2-year-old?
Try now. Yeah, you get a mulligan. Wrap it right in there. Just tap it right in there.
This is Eldrick Tiger Woods, and Eldrick is an accomplished golfer. He wins tournaments on a regular basis and has shot close to par on 18-hole courses.
We have the 9 o'clock starting group, the youngest contestant ever. He's 5 years old. Eldrick Tiger Woods.
I'm going to be 20. I'm going to beat Jen Nicklaus and Tom Watson.
10 years later, at 15, he would become the youngest junior amateur champion ever.
With apologies to Teddy Roosevelt, when Eldrick Tiger Woods has a golf club in his hand, he doesn't need to talk. Media types are hyping him as the next Greg Norman, Jack Nicklaus, or Arnold Palmer.
6 years later, Tiger Woods was born.
There it is, a win for the ages. Tiger Woods in a moment like no one has ever seen at the Masters.
But here's why Tiger's story is so important. As Tiger became more and more famous,
I guess hello world, huh?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger.
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
Tiger.
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is the most exciting athlete in the world.
Hey, Tiger. Yo, Stu. How you doing? Good. We still on for lunch? Yeah. What do you say? Meet me in the lobby at 12:30? Perfect. Done. See you there. Bye.
so did his dad, Earl Woods. Every win, every performance, nearly every interview, Earl Woods was there. Those of you that don't know much about Earl Woods, think LeVar Ball, but times 1,000.
Earl Woods at one point even said, "Tiger will do more than any other man in history to change the course of humanity. He is the chosen one. He'll have the power to impact nations, not people, nations." Tiger's mom even said, "Tiger has Thai, African, Chinese, American, Indian, and European blood. He can hold everyone together. He is the universal child."
And in 1996, Earl Woods became Tiger Woods' agent.
And now, golf's not hard with Tiger Woods at the Air Zoom Tee Range.
He was the one who negotiated all those record-breaking endorsements at the time with Nike, Buick, EA Sports, Titleist. Now, in today's sports age, it's very typical to see dads representing their sons as agents. That started with Earl Woods. But following Tiger Woods' record-breaking performance in Augusta,
shattering record after record after record,
Earl Woods wrote a book, Training a Tiger, Raising a Winner in Both Golf and Life, which became a New York Times bestseller. Here's the point of all of this. Tiger's upbringing, his relationship with his dad, Earl's training methods.
Just as he's beginning to swing, I'd drop my whole bag of clubs, and he would stop and look at me, those teeth gritting. And he'd start again. I'd throw a dozen golf balls in front of his ball.
But he'd never push me over the edge. He would take me right up to the breaking point and he'd back off.
All of it became so public that once people saw that result that Tiger put up in Augusta in '97, the American public all of a sudden realizes, oh, his method worked. And as a result, it changed youth sports forever.
This is where the future plays to win.
There you go.
Step into your greatness. Start at IMG Academy.
And since there is no off-season anymore in big-time youth sports,
these kids come in here, they get mental toughness training on this tower, they get skills training out in the infield, they're in the cages, they have qualified, well-trained coaches.
Fun Training recently opened in Baldwin, and here with a boot camp workout is Colin Walsh, head speed and strength coach. So welcome to the show, Colin.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So what is D1 training?
So D1 Sports Training is an athletic performance facility. We bring in anyone from small children through moms, dads, high school.
Year-round private training for sports absolutely exploded in the late 90s and 2000s, even with kids as young as 4 years old.
Are you ready to live this fire way?
As a result, in the early 2000s, 30% of kids in America who played sports specialized in one sport. Now, that number is 70%. There was a study done by the Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine, and it reported that 91% of parents believed that playing just one sport increased their kids' chances of going pro more than playing multiple sports did. As a result, in the early 2000s, AAU basketball becomes way more popular. Perfect Game and 7-on-7 football are founded in the mid to late 90s and became very popular in the 2000s. But here's the interesting thing. This early specialization thing in youth sports, is it working? 88% of NFL draft picks in a study played multiple sports. You look at the great ones. LeBron James played football until his senior year of high school. Michael Jordan played baseball. And yes, even Tiger Woods played baseball as a teenager. As a matter of fact, a study was done by the UCSF Children's Hospital focusing on NBA draft picks from 2013 to 2023. Multi-sport athletes played 20% more games in the NBA, more longevity, less injuries, and they received 2 times the personal awards, meaning All-Stars, All-NBAs, MVPs, that those that only played one sport as a kid received. Hey, you wonder why all these NBA players are getting hurt all of a sudden. Well, a lot of doctors have pointed to the year-round AAU circuit as the reason. So the question still stands, why on earth did all of these American parents start specializing their kids in one sport so early all of a sudden? The answer: perception beats reality. When little Tiger Woods and Earl Woods were on TV, Tiger wasn't holding a baseball glove. He was holding a golf club. But here's another very, very interesting thing. Tiger Woods had a quote, and I'm going to read it. "Don't force your kids into sports. I never was. To this day, my dad has never asked me to go play golf. I ask him. It's the child's desire to play that matters, not the parent's desire to have the child play. Fun. Keep it fun." Yahoo Sports did a survey asking a bunch of parents in youth sports if they think their kid will go pro or D1. 26% of parents said they believed their son will go Division 1. 26%. And 11% believed their kid would go pro. Well, I got news for you. Only 1% of kids go D1, and significantly less than 1% go pro. So you're left with 1/4 of the parents in youth sports with unmet goals. So as a result of all of this that I've talked about, parents create unreasonable goals. That creates a lot of pressure, and all of a sudden, you're left with a really tough situation for the kid. People call this Earl Woods syndrome.
When Tiger Woods was 3 or 4 years old, he was on, I don't know, it was the Tonight Show, or he was on a show. No one knew he was going to become Tiger Woods. And he like, look at this little guy hit the golf ball, you know, and his dad was on there, and he's talking about all we do is hit the golf ball and blah, 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 blah. And then he becomes Tiger Woods. That's when playing one sport 12 months out of the year really took off. And I call that the Earl Woods syndrome, where parents like my age saw that, because I felt it. What you're saying to me, because you and I are around this, we know how it's rarefied air to get to college athletics. That's rarefied air. All over the world where you went and Luke went and Jonathan Stewart went, that's like 1 in a million. And yet that Earl Woods syndrome, we can't let go of thinking our kid's been the man since he was 5.
The problem in youth sports isn't Tiger Woods or even Earl Woods. The problem is the Tiger Woods effect created this generation of parents that think that they can create the next Tiger Woods. And by the way, I mentioned this earlier, that 30% of kids who play sports in the United States play multiple sports. You know what that number is in Europe? Doubled. 60%. Sure, the EU has 30% more people than the United States, but the US has 52% more GDP than the EU. Yet in these last 2 Olympic Games, Europe is tripling us in Olympic medals. Reason number 1 of why the US sports empire is falling, early specialization. Reason number 2. Cost.
Parents of young athletes are expressing concern that youth sports could soon become even more expensive.
If you want your kid to play sports, not go pro, it's about $1,000.
If your family can afford those $2,000, $3,000 fees, you're in. And if they can't, you're out.
Across America, parents are estimated to spend $40 billion a year on their children's sporting dreams, dwarfing the annual revenue of America's Big 4 sports leagues.
Almost $5,000, and he hadn't hit the ice yet.
The Hoffman family spends more than $16,000 a year on their son Brayson's baseball.
So you might be wondering, why did I mention Norway at the beginning? Well, I thought you may ask.
What a performance from the Norwegian.
In 2022, the Aspen Institute estimated that 50% of kids in America, age 13 and under, participate in youth sports.
Says the decline in youth involvement is a problem.
New data shows fewer kids are playing team sports.
More and more young athletes are calling it quits.
Pretty much the kids are staying home. They're playing on the Xbox and PlayStation.
The average cost of participating in youth sports is $1,000 in America, to as high as $10,000 to those that want to go do the Elite Travel League thing, which is a lot of people. You know how much it is in Norway? $400. That is a night and day difference between those two countries. But why? Why is it so much cheaper in Norway? Well, in Norway, lots of it is publicly owned, unlike the US, which is extremely privately owned. It's government-backed, lots of rec leagues, lots of local leagues. It's funded by the state, the oil reserve, the state lottery, and it goes from the state and it trickles down a little bit into youth sports. But this is interesting. Travel sports leagues are pretty much not allowed in Norway. So because of that, not having travel sports leagues, it keeps youth sports cheap. Local leagues are heavily incentivized. So as a result of the local league incentivization, the low cost to play, no travel fees, which is a huge one, in Norway, youth sports participation is 93%. And because of the cost of playing youth sports in America, Abilene Christian did a study and reported that 70% of kids from high-income families play youth sports. For low-income families in America, that number is 30%. We've already weeded out 70% of low-income families, which low-income families is about 25% of the American population, those that make $34,000 or less. Do the math. 70% of 25, well, roughly 18% of the population. That's 18% of the population that doesn't even have a shot to participate in youth sports. 50% of kids don't even want to participate and aren't participating for other reasons that we'll get to. And those that do Well, 70% of them do just one sport, thus hurting their chances dramatically of going pro or Division I. This is hurting America a ton because you think about it, tons of kids from low-income families have turned into successful athletes historically.
Block! James out of nowhere! Huge defensive play by the four-time MVP!
Mesmerizing and magnificent from Novak Djokovic.
But primarily, the Winter Olympics is where the United States has been so heavily affected. Michael McKelvey does a fantastic video on this. I also recommend you watch that. I'll sum it up like this. In the United States, it costs roughly $300 to $700 per day to ski. And that doesn't even include travel costs, hotels. That doesn't include any of that. So $300 at the very minimum. You know how much it costs in Norway to ski? $60. And kids and seniors ski for free. You know, this might be tough to believe, but only a few Olympics ago, in Vancouver 2010, the United States led the world in medal count. But those days look to be long gone. Why? Because in the 2000s, the average price per day to ski in the US was roughly $70 to $100. That number has increased by 500%. So long story short, it was more accessible to the public, just like it is in Norway. So how do we fix this in America? Well, youth sports should be a right in America, not a privilege you get if your parents earn a lot of money. This should be the case not just for performance reasons for the US and the Olympics, but for much deeper quality of life purposes. Obesity rates in children are rapidly rising. Type 2 diabetes rates are surging. The Aspen Institute reported that if the US can get youth sports participation rate from 50 to 63%, that they would save $80 billion in healthcare cost. Like I said, this isn't just a performance of the Olympics issue, this is something deeper. It's a matter of quality of life. Kids that play less sports report higher obesity rates, higher diabetes rates, and even mentally, more depression rates, more anxiety rates, which all of that stuff greatly shortens lifespans. So yeah, this is a matter of life and death. And all of this is happening because youth sports, which is probably the thing in the world that should not become an elitist thing, has become completely an elitist thing, unlike Norway. So structurally, how should this work? We need more government control in the system of youth sports. We need more publicly owned recreational places. We need government surveillance on monopoly groups that buy up everything and jack up the prices. We need less travel sports leagues, especially those under the age of 14. And we do that with the way Norway's done it, extensive fines to travel sports leagues. And man, I know child labor laws prevent kids from working in America, but kids from ages 8 to 18 are on their screens an average of 7.5 hours per day. Folks, that's a full-time job. But in the parent's mind, especially if you're low income, you're thinking, well, that Xbox only costs about $300 to $400 per year. That's way less than if I put them in a youth sports league. So to lots of these parents, there is no other alternative. In Norway, there's an alternative. And I'm not finished. I'm sure lots of you have heard the stat. But if you haven't, I'm going to enlighten you. A study by Michigan State University concluded that 70% of kids in the United States quit sports by the age of 13. Why? Money has a lot to do with it. Okay, sure. But that's only one reason. The AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, did a study on why so many kids are quitting sports in America at such a rapid rate. The number one reported reason in that study for why kids quit sports in America. Was burnout due to pressure?
The pressures can make the sport less fun.
From the pressures from parents. Parents, we really do need to be careful not to put extra pressure on the kids.
Utah State also did a study on this. Basically, completely pointed the finger at, to no surprise, parents and coaches. They also concluded that the #1 reason kids quit sports in America is due to unwanted pressure from parents and coaches.
You better make a damn tackle!
Coaches rolling in the dirt, coming out of the stands to fight.
It's the latest example of a little league game that turns into a major brawl.
The Changing the Game Project also did a survey. The most frequently given quote in the survey for why kids quit sports is afraid to make mistakes, quote. This goes back completely to what I said at the beginning of the video. This American winning at all cost mindset.
You're up 2-0. What's the story? Are you not happy, or you're only half happy, or?
Still to be happy about.
You're up 2-0.
Job's not finished.
I'd argue it's hurting America's sports performance as a whole because it's weeding kids out. The data shows it. And these are kids who could become amazing athletes one day, but they receive tough coaching at way too young of an age, so they're not mentally ready. As a result, they never reach their athletic potential because they quit. But most importantly, what is it doing to the quality of life of children in America? The NAYS, National Alliance of Youth Sports, reported that 70% of kids in youth sports report massive amounts of performance-related anxiety and stress, which is interesting because that's the exact same number as percentage of kids that quit sports in America. Now, lots of kids think the couch and their video games are worth it because it gives them less anxiety. I'd argue this has a lot to do with why kids are quitting sports in America at such a rapid rate. But in Norway, just 36% of kids quit sports between the ages of 13 and 19. That's the number in the United States divided by 2. Well, pretty much. So why are so many kids quitting sports in the United States compared to Norway? This is going to shock you. If you were to ask an American boomer about a participation trophy, most of them would yell in your face and tell you why that is a terrible idea. Shut the f*** up! Norway's youth sports system differs drastically from America's, not just structurally and governmentally, but emotionally. Norway's youth system sports guidelines operates under the motto, joy of sport for all. There is a children's rights to youth sports document in Norway. I highly recommend you reading it. But I'll summarize it and tell you some things that are really, really interesting. Things that will boggle the American brain to pieces. Norway does not allow scorekeeping in youth sporting events for kids below the age of 13. That's impossible! So the objective for them is not to declare a winner. It kind of goes back to what Tiger Woods said, keeping it fun. Posting scores online in Norway is not legal. Kids are allowed to switch teams in the middle of the season. They can quit. They can try something new in the middle of the season. In other words, kids in Norway can pull a Lane Kiffin. And, it gets even worse for boomers. Trophies are required for every player, every team. In no other words, participation trophies are required. Mind-boggling. This differs drastically from the American model, which keeps score of 5-year-old T-ball games, and where you could probably Google best 9 and under AAU basketball teams and get a comprehensive team-by-team ranking online, which, by the way, should not be allowed. So, let's do the math here. Norway has 5.5 million people. 93% of them participate in youth sports, so we're going to take out 7% of that population. 64% of them are still playing at or past the age of 13, so we're going to take out 36% of them. So you go from 5.5 to 3.3 million of your population by middle school. The United States has 343 million people. 50% of them participate in youth sports, so we're going to take 50% of them out. 70% of them stop playing youth sports at 13. So by the time these kids have reached 7th grade, you go from 343 million people to 51 million people. You just trimmed out 290 million people. In Norway, take the 65% of kids that play multiple sports, multiply it by 2, because that's their likelihood of receiving accolades, it doubles. Take the 35% that play one sport, divide it by 2, take those two totals, add them up, you've got about 5 million people. In the US, take the 70% of the total kids that play one sport, divide that by 2, take the 30% of the kids that play multiple sports, times it by 2, you get 48 million people. Now, let's take a look at the adjusted medals per capita. Norway has 1 Olympic medal for every 101,000 people, and the US has 1 Olympic medal for every 298,000 people. That is a major difference from the 1 in 2.4 million we talked about earlier for the US. So that's reason number 3. We're falling behind. Emotional burnout. Now, I love the Olympics because more than any other sporting event, it serves as a microcosm for society. We get to see which systems are working, which methods are working, and which ones are not. And you know what? The American sports empire has fallen off because we as Americans have forgotten the reason why sports were invented in the first place.
Man, this is baseball. You gotta stop thinking. You just have fun.
I've experienced many moments in the sun, but perhaps the most rewarding was to have Lutz Long beside me on the winner's platform.
Basketball was created by Dr. James Naismith and the YMCA, who wanted to give a sport to kids who couldn't play the super expensive sports that had a lot of equipment required, like golf or hockey. It was a Christian missionary group that wanted to tell the gospel of Jesus Christ to people and used it as a tool. Golf was invented by some guy in Scotland in the 15th century who wanted to hit pebbles over dunes and admire coastline views. Isn't that crazy? Hockey was invented by 19th century Canadians to get people outside during long, cold, hard winters. Long story short, sports are meant to be fun. They're meant to be a place where community can bond with each other, especially at a young age. We as Americans have completely lost the plot. We are losing the purpose of why sports was made in the first place. It wasn't to deem a winner, and it's affecting both our performance in the Olympic Games and our quality of life. And unlike Norway, it's weeding a lot of kids out. So how can Americans fix this? Because we're falling behind. More emotional training for youth sports coaches would be huge. The Aspen Institute reported that kids who played for untrained coaches were far more likely to quit than ones that played for trained coaches. Norway has a 4-step training program that all youth sports coaches are required to take. It's called the Coaching Pathway Framework. In America, some random Joe Schmo could call up AAU or a YMCA and go to one meeting, and just like that, he's a coach. As far as posting comprehensive elementary and middle school AAU perfect game rankings team by team, if you polled the American people and said, should we take steps to preventing this in our society, I'll bet you a lot of them would say, yeah, we can give more authority to the counties and states to extensively fine those who post scores online. It would be tough to ban travel sports leagues as a whole in America because of the 14th Amendment, but we can tax them more. The American government could alter tax codes to tax for-profit youth sports corporations like AAU, Black Bear Sports Group, Perfect Game. You could make a 3 to 5 federal tax on entry fees. You need to add industry-specific business taxes on ticket sales, I think the states and counties could take way more steps in government advertising towards recreational sports leagues in public schools. Email and require teachers to talk about it to the students. You can email parents and get them to talk about it with the kids. All of that stuff would go a tremendously long way. So why is Norway outperforming us? Well, the United States youth sports system has turned into an Ivy League curriculum. You get in based on connections. If you're low income, unless if you're a once-in-a-generation child prodigy, there's no place for you. The weak and indecisive, quote, quote, are weeded out very early. And those that are left standing are either once-in-a-generation prodigies or kids who grew up in a lot of wealth with a lot of connections. In America, youth sports is solely dictated by money and corporations. Sounds to me like an Ivy League school. That sounds just like an Ivy school. As opposed to Norway, there is a place for everyone in their youth sports system, regardless of financial background or emotional background. I'll sum up the entire purpose of this video in one sentence. Norway is winning because winning for them is a dependent variable. The independent variables for them is having fun, being active, and keeping youth sports accessible for everyone. For the United States, winning is the independent variable.
And act like you want to play this game. No, you're not. And you're not.
You better go out there and show me. I don't want you messing up at all. Do you understand?
And because of that, we're no longer winning. So in the end of the day, the United States sports empire is falling for 3 reasons: early specialization, high cost, and emotional burnout. And the one reason why all of that is happening is because we've forgotten the main reason as to why sports were invented in the first place. Thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ohio State's phenomenal Jesse Owens again takes the spotlight as he sprints for the takeoff in the broad jump. It's his last try and it's got to be good. Lutz Long, a German competitor, has him tied, but his mighty heavy sent him into space to a new Olympic record of 26 feet 5/8 of an inch, which is practically perfect.
The competition was grand, and we're very glad to come out on top. Thank you very kindly.